What the hell just happened? The wrestling world is in absolute chaos right now, and if you think you know what went down backstage at the latest WWE event, you're dead wrong. Brock Lesnar, the beast incarnate himself, just unleashed pure carnage on Jacob Fatu in what's being called the most brutal backstage attack in WWE history. We're talking about a legitimate fight that had security scrambling, medics rushing, and WWE officials losing their minds trying to contain two absolute monsters. But here's what's got me furious. WWE tried to cover this up. They didn't want you to see the footage, they didn't want you to know the truth about what really triggered this insane confrontation, and they certainly didn't want you to find out about the shocking backstage politics that led to this explosion. The mainstream wrestling media is dancing around the facts, but I'm about to expose everything that went down, and trust me, this story is way more insane than anything they've scripted. First question for the comments: who do you think would win in a legitimate shoot fight, Brock Lesnar with his UFC background or Jacob Fatu with his Samoan warrior genetics? Drop your answer below because this debate is about to get heated. Let me paint you the picture of what actually went down, because the sanitized version WWE wants you to believe is complete garbage. We're talking about two men who are legitimate killers in that ring: Brock Lesnar, the former UFC heavyweight champion who's conquered both MMA and professional wrestling, going head-to-head with Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf who's been demolishing everyone in his path with the kind of raw brutality that makes grown men question their career choices. Sources inside WWE are telling me this wasn't some worked angle gone wrong, this was real heat that had been building for weeks. Apparently, tensions started brewing when Fatu made some comments about Lesnar's part-time status and questioned whether the beast was still hungry for competition. Now, if you know anything about Brock Lesnar, you know that questioning his legitimacy is like poking a grizzly bear with a stick while wearing a meat suit. The incident went down in the catering area of all places, where wrestlers typically let their guard down and just try to grab a quick meal between matches. Witnesses say Lesnar was sitting alone, probably counting his money and thinking about his next hunting trip, when Fatu walked past and made a comment that nobody seems to want to repeat on the record. But whatever he said, it lit a fire under the beast that turned the entire backstage area into a war zone. Here's another question for you wrestling fanatics: do you think WWE should embrace more legitimate backstage confrontations, or should they stick to scripted drama? Let me know in the comments because this is where wrestling gets real. What happened next is where things get absolutely insane. Multiple sources confirm that Lesnar didn't say a word, he just exploded out of his chair and went straight for Fatu with the kind of intensity we haven't seen from him since his UFC days. We're talking about a legitimate suplex attempt in catering, with food flying everywhere and tables getting absolutely demolished. The sound was apparently so loud that wrestlers from 3 different areas came running to see what was happening. But here's where Jacob Fatu proved why he's called the Samoan werewolf. This man didn't back down for a second. Instead of trying to de-escalate or escape, Fatu met Lesnar's aggression with his own brand of Samoan fury. Witnesses described seeing Fatu throw hands with the kind of speed and power that would make his legendary family members proud, connecting with shots that would have put down lesser men. The really crazy part is how this escalated beyond just a simple confrontation. Security tried to intervene, but when you're dealing with two men who have a combined weight of over 550 pounds and legitimate fighting experience, regular security guards become glorified spectators. It took multiple agents, road agents, and even some active wrestlers to finally separate these two absolute units. WWE officials are furious about this whole situation, and here's why: this kind of legitimate backstage drama threatens their carefully controlled narrative. They spend millions of dollars crafting storylines and character development, and then two of their biggest stars go and create real drama that's more compelling than anything their creative team could write. Question number 3 for the comment section: should WWE fire wrestlers who engage in legitimate backstage fights, or should they capitalize on the real drama? Your opinion matters, so drop it below. The aftermath of this confrontation is where things get really interesting from a business perspective. Word is that Vince McMahon's successors are split on how to handle this situation. Some executives want to punish both men severely to send a message that this kind of behavior won't be tolerated. Others are looking at the social media explosion and fan reaction and thinking this could be the most authentic feud WWE has had in years. Let me break down the politics behind this whole situation, because it's way more complex than just two big guys having a disagreement. Jacob Fatu's position in WWE has been somewhat uncertain since his arrival. Despite his incredible in-ring ability and his legendary family connections, there's been questions about whether he fits into WWE's current direction. Meanwhile, Lesnar's part-time status and massive contract have created resentment among full-time performers who feel like they're working harder for less money. The timing of this confrontation is suspicious too. This happened just weeks before a major pay-per-view event, and you know WWE is scrambling to figure out whether they can turn this real-life drama into a money-making storyline. The problem is, when you're dealing with legitimate animosity between two legitimate fighters, the line between entertainment and actual violence gets dangerously blurred. Here's what really has me fired up about this whole situation: the double standard. WWE has suspended wrestlers for far less serious infractions, but when it involves two of their biggest draws, suddenly the rules become flexible. It's the same old story of different rules for different talent levels, and it's exactly the kind of backstage politics that drives wrestlers crazy. The medical evaluation that followed this altercation tells its own story. Both men required attention from WWE's medical staff, with reports of Lesnar having visible marks on his face and Fatu dealing with what sources describe as significant bruising on his arms and torso. When professional wrestlers who take bumps for a living need medical attention after a backstage confrontation, you know it was intense. Fourth question for engagement: do you think Brock Lesnar's UFC background gives him an unfair advantage in backstage confrontations, or does Jacob Fatu's Samoan heritage level the playing field? Hit those comments. The ripple effects of this incident are already being felt throughout the entire WWE roster. Wrestlers are choosing sides, with some supporting Lesnar's veteran status and others backing Fatu's full-time dedication to the company. This isn't just about one fight, it's about the fundamental tensions between part-time stars and full-time grinders that have been simmering in WWE for years. What makes this situation even more explosive is the family dynamics involved. Jacob Fatu comes from the legendary Anoa'i wrestling family, which includes Roman Reigns, the Usos, and The Rock. Any disrespect toward Jacob could be seen as disrespect toward the entire Samoan wrestling dynasty, which would create political complications that go far beyond just these two individuals. Meanwhile, Lesnar's relationship with WWE management has always been unique due to his legitimate fighting credentials and his ability to walk away from wrestling whenever he wants. This gives him a level of autonomy that most wrestlers can only dream of, but it also creates resentment among wrestlers who feel like they're held to different standards. The locker room reaction has been intense. Veteran wrestlers are reportedly divided on whether this kind of confrontation is old-school settling of disputes or dangerous behavior that threatens everyone's safety. Younger wrestlers are apparently fascinated by seeing two legitimate tough guys settle their differences the hard way, while others are concerned about the precedent this sets. Here's question 5. If you were a WWE wrestler, would you respect someone more or less after seeing them in a legitimate backstage fight? Share your thoughts below. The financial implications of this situation are staggering. Both Lesnar and Fatu are significant investments for WWE, and any injury that keeps either man out of action represents millions of dollars in lost revenue. The fact that this confrontation happened so close to a major pay-per-view has WWE executives pulling their hair out trying to figure out contingency plans. But here's the really crazy part: the fan reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. Social media is going absolutely nuts with fans praising both men for keeping wrestling real and showing genuine passion for their craft. The hashtags are trending worldwide, and WWE's social media engagement has spiked to levels they haven't seen in months. This creates a massive dilemma for WWE management. Do they punish both men and risk alienating fans who are excited about genuine emotion and conflict? Or do they embrace the chaos and try to turn this real-life drama into their next big storyline? The decision they make could set the tone for how WWE handles similar situations in the future. The security footage of this incident is apparently wild, but WWE is guarding it like it's nuclear launch codes. Sources say the footage shows both men landing legitimate shots and displaying the kind of intensity that makes their in-ring performances look tame by comparison. The fact that WWE isn't releasing this footage tells you everything you need to know about how concerned they are about the legal and public relations implications. Training partners of both men are reportedly not surprised by this confrontation. Lesnar's intensity in training is legendary, and he's never been one to back down from any kind of challenge. Similarly, Fatu's reputation for toughness and his willingness to stand up for himself has been well established throughout his career. When two men with these personalities clash, explosion is inevitable. Final question for maximum engagement: should WWE create a special shoot fight division where wrestlers can settle legitimate disputes in a controlled environment, or would that destroy the entertainment value of professional wrestling? Let me know your thoughts. The international wrestling community is watching this situation very closely. Promotions in Japan, Mexico, and Europe are reportedly interested in signing either man if WWE decides to release them over this incident. The global wrestling landscape could be dramatically altered depending on how WWE handles this situation. What really pisses me off is how WWE's corporate structure handles these situations. They preach about being a sports entertainment company, but when real athletic competition breaks out backstage, they treat it like a crisis instead of embracing what makes wrestling authentic. This sanitized, overproduced approach to wrestling is exactly why fans crave genuine moments like this confrontation. The psychological warfare aspect of this situation is fascinating. Both men are reportedly back to their normal routines, but the tension is apparently still thick enough to cut with a knife. Other wrestlers describe the atmosphere as electric whenever both men are in the same area, with everyone waiting to see if round 2 is going to break out. Training footage from both men since the incident shows increased intensity and focus, almost like they're preparing for war rather than entertainment. Lesnar's been hitting the weights harder than usual, while Fatu's been working on his striking with a ferocity that has his training partners genuinely concerned about their safety. The merchandise implications alone are huge. WWE's marketing department is reportedly torn between capitalizing on the buzz with special Beast vs Werewolf products or distancing the company from any association with backstage violence. Either decision could result in millions of dollars in revenue gained or lost. This incident has also reignited debates about wrestler safety and the responsibility of promotions to control their talent. While some argue that professional wrestlers should be able to handle their disputes like adults, others worry about the liability issues and potential for serious injury when legitimate fighters clash outside of controlled environments. The legacy implications for both men are massive. This confrontation will be talked about for years, regardless of how their careers continue. For Lesnar, it reinforces his reputation as a legitimate tough guy who doesn't take disrespect from anyone. For Fatu, it establishes him as someone willing to stand toe-to-toe with one of wrestling's biggest legends. So there you have it. The real story behind the most talked about backstage incident in recent wrestling history. WWE can try to sanitize it, the mainstream media can try to downplay it, but the truth is that we witnessed something genuinely authentic in a world of predetermined outcomes and scripted emotions. Make sure you're subscribed because this story is far from over, and when the next chapter breaks, you'll want to hear it here first. The wrestling world has been shaken to its core, and frankly, it's about damn time. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the wrestling newsletter family where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.